I was reading this Human Rights Watch report, and it says human rights, the situation in Vietnam deteriorated significantly in 2013. The year was marked by a severe and intensifying crackdown on critics, including long prison terms for many peaceful activists whose crime was calling for political change. We're aware of that crackdown because we've had hearings and shown photos of what's happened to those students and religious leaders who have called for religious liberty or freedom of speech. But I was going to ask Supervisor Wynne, you're in a unique position of speaking with people from Vietnam. A lot of people have family back in Vietnam. Do they see the trend lines in Vietnam? What do they share with you about their hopes, aspirations, what they think is happening? Maybe you could just give us the insight from the community.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In particular, the people in Vietnam are not, I mean, because of what's going on with China, there's been more and more willingness to come out and speak against China. However, the country of Vietnam has not been very supportive of that. So there's a greater mix of concerns within Vietnam that freedom and democracy is not going to change. We need to, in the United States, with your leadership in this committee, to have to force the country of Vietnam to allow the freedom of speech.
How do you see efforts in Congress, such as House Resolution 4254, the Vietnam Human Rights Sanctions Act, trying to target or list those who are involved specifically in human rights abuses? Naming them. How do you see that impacting change in Vietnam?
It will have a great impact, Mr. Chairman, because H.R. 4254 particularly targets individuals, not the country of Vietnam, but the individual who imposes these violations, whether they're judges, elected officials, police officers, chief of police, these individuals who now has the responsibility and have to think twice to be able to make any kind of sanctions against individuals and citizens of Vietnam before they have to now think, because if not, they would not be allowed in our great country or be able to use our financial institution. And so now we are looking at target individuals, and hopefully this will make them think twice, 3 times before they cause any actions against individuals.
Targeting those who use the truncheons or those that order the beatings.
Yes.
Or order the arrests of people, young bloggers for, simply talking about an issue like freedom of speech.
Yes. And not only that, Mr. Chairman, but also individuals such as judges who does not allow the court system to be fair.
Right. Okay, let me ask of Mr. Craner. Lauren, I was going to ask you on Cambodia. I have been speaking to our ambassador there and our undersecretary about the situation that exists with respect to the violence directed at the political opposition and the sense of fear. And again, the amount of violence and the lack of respect for the political process, for the democratic process by the government in power, to say nothing of the land grabbing or whatever we want to call the process whereby land is routinely taken from people in the countryside and turned over to those who are politically well connected to the government or to generals. What can be done in terms of additional pressure to call international attention to this and end this egregious process, because it's affecting families all over Cambodia today?
I think a couple of things beyond the measures that I outlined, and I think one thing that we all have in common is a belief that the United States should not extend courtesies, recognition by meetings and other methods, to governments like this. And I think in the case particular of Hun Sen, I think in this case also we need to bring in our European allies and our regional allies, Australia and ASEAN, in trying to put pressure on the Cambodian government to begin to open up the system. It's one thing if the U.S. is pushing for that. It's another thing if we can get other countries engaged. But we need to recognize, I think, as long as Hun Sen is in control in Cambodia, very little is going to change. And he is saying that he intends to stay until he's 74 years old, which is another 13 years. So we also need to be engaged, as I outlined, in trying to make the democratic system better.
So his intention will be violence against protesters, calling for fair elections, continue to subvert the elections as he has for the next 13 years.
The CPP has learned that they either hang together or they hang apart. And for all the years since 1991, they have been a very cohesive group until there's more political openness and the possibility of political change in Cambodia. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, the problem is that when the opposition candidates can't even go into these areas to campaign because the police and the ruling party supporters come out and block passage and beat people. And so, you know, if you don't have an opportunity to conduct a fair election,
and that's
to say
why
nothing to the ballot count, which is truly preposterous.
That's why all of the countries, Europe, the United States, Australia, Japan, and others, and hopefully people in the region, countries in the region, need to be engaged before the next election. And it's especially important that as the rules are drawn up in terms of the National Election Commission for the next election, that all of these countries remain engaged to try and make it a better system.